Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a truly fascinating piece of modern utopian literature. Throughout human history, we've constantly dreamed up these perfect societies, right? From Plato's Republic all the way to Thomas More's Utopia. Well, today, we're analyzing a contemporary manifesto. It's by an author named Xu Sifeng, and it's titled, "The Mode of the New Oasis for Life Will Solve 21 Difficulties That Mankind is Facing." We're going to look completely objectively at this text, decoding exactly how it claims to permanently fix the most deeply rooted problems of human existence. It is a sweeping, radical, and highly structured vision for the future, and we're going to break the whole thing down for you.
So, to really understand this text, we first need to define what the author is actually proposing here. The text describes this blueprint, which it often calls the New Oasis for Life, or Lifechanyuan, as a total paradigm shift. The author boldly equates this proposed way of living to a New Eden, or even a Shuifeng-style communism, and the stated goal? To completely and permanently eliminate 21 historical difficulties that have plagued humanity for literally thousands of years. We're not just talking about a few policy tweaks here. The author frames this as a total systemic overhaul designed to end human struggle once and for all.
Okay, let's dive into this by organizing these sweeping claims into three distinct societal pillars. Number 1, the personal and social. 2, the geopolitical and legal. And 3, the environmental and spiritual.
Starting off as Section 1, the personal and social, and how this text reimagines daily life. What immediately stands out when you read this text is the absolute, uncompromising nature of its promises. According to the author, the Lifechanyuan era isn't just going to reduce societal problems. It claims severe social ills will disappear completely. No half measures. The text promises that domestic violence will be entirely eradicated. It states that the phenomenon of orphans will vanish forever because all children will lead lives full of love, care, and education. Furthermore, it claims that loneliness and the state of being unattached will just be wiped out, right alongside the complete disappearance of drug abuse and gambling. It's pitching a vision of a society where the emotional and psychological pitfalls of modern life simply do not exist anymore.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the text targets the very specific, everyday anxieties of vulnerable groups. Think about our current reality. You have women carrying the invisible, exhausting load of household chores, and the elderly constantly worrying about their retirement funds or if their kids will be there to take care of them. Now, contrast that with the text's proposed reality. It claims women are freed from daily trivial chores completely and forever. Meanwhile, the elderly are guaranteed to live out their happiest days, utterly regardless of whether they have children or receive a pension. The system itself is built to provide unconditional care and absolute security.
Which brings us to this powerful number, 0. In this new mode of production, the author claims that the wealth gap will be exactly 0. The text envisions this radical reshaping of ownership, describing a society where everyone, and I'm quoting directly from the source here, will have everything yet own nothing. It's a really fascinating paradox, isn't it? It essentially proposes eliminating personal property entirely, but using that as the exact method to achieve total material abundance for everyone. All right, let's move on to Section 2, the geopolitical and legal, creating a borderless world. The author contrasts the old world with the new oasis in some incredibly stark geopolitical terms. The blueprint basically outlines a completely borderless world. According to this, political parties will have absolutely no purpose, so political competition just disappears entirely. And because borders and land disputes between states won't exist anymore, the text states that global citizens will be able to travel and migrate anywhere on Earth entirely freely. No restrictions whatsoever. National sovereignty in this vision basically just dissolves. Now, what's really interesting about this is what happens to global defense when there are no borders. Just like the wealth gap, global military expenditures drop to absolute 0. The text claims that militaries just won't be necessary anymore, and therefore they'll be entirely abolished. Consequently, military conflicts will literally become a thing of the past.
And following that exact logic, the text outlines what is essentially a massive domino effect. Without borders, without political parties, and without militaries, the author makes the leap that all religious and belief conflicts will end forever. Regional and ethnic conflicts will cease, completely replaced by universal peace. Plus, the text argues that official corruption will disappear completely because officials will have neither the need nor the means to actually be corrupt. And honestly, the most radical claim here? The author says that courts, lawyers, and the entire legal system will just die out gradually because the foundational need for them will simply fade away.
Yet, despite the assertion that courts and lawyers will naturally fade away, the text introduces a highly specific, quantified statistic about crime. It states that criminal activities will be reduced by 3/4, or 75%, which will greatly enhance global security. It's a really curious detail, right? It implies that even as the formal legal apparatus dies out, a residual 25% of baseline criminal activity might still happen, but overall security is just vastly improved. Let's move to our third pillar, Section 3, the environmental and spiritual, and how this builds toward planetary harmony. The environmental claims made in this manifesto are sweeping, to say the least. The text outlines a complete ecological reset. It envisions a stabilized human population that perfectly balances with the planet's resources, meaning no sharp increases or decreases. It claims atmospheric, water, and soil pollution will completely disappear. And even more incredibly, and this is a wildly audacious claim, the author states that not only will species extinction halt, but many lost or extinct species will magically return to the planet. Finally, climatic disasters will cease entirely, replaced by a permanent normality of perfectly distinct seasons and consistent weather. It is a vision of a planet effectively returned to a pristine, factory settings paradise. And then, right at the end, in the 21st and final claim, the text takes a sudden, highly dramatic spiritual turn. It states that at least half, 50% of humanity will sublimate into higher spiritual beings. The text specifically lists that these people will become angels, bodhisattvas, celestial beings, and Buddhas. It elevates this whole utopian blueprint from just a socioeconomic and environmental plan into a literal vehicle for mass human spiritual evolution. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Entering the Lifechanyuan Era, and why the text claims this utopia is inevitable. The author is actually highly anticipatory of skepticism here. The text strictly insists that the reader should not take this as a joke, a myth, or merely an armchair strategy. Instead, the author points to 10 years of existing development of Lifechanyuan's theories and models as firm evidence. According to the source, this full decade of groundwork proves that this utopian blueprint is a fully realizable, practical ideal for all of mankind. It's not just wishful thinking to them. So, the crucial point is how the text wraps up its entire argument. It concludes with an assertion of absolute, unbending certainty. Listen to this quote. Whether you wish or not, and believe it or not, mankind has been bound to and is entering into the Lifechanyuan era. The author is declaring that this new era, with all 21 of these massive solutions, is already unfolding. It is happening entirely independent of human permission, individual belief, or political will. As the text definitively states, everything is running according to procedure. And that brings us to the end of our explainer on this fascinating text. Regardless of where you personally stand on the feasibility of these claims, analyzing blueprints like the new Oasis for Life is just incredibly revealing. It really forces us to ask, what do these 21 absolute solutions, things like eradicating loneliness, abolishing borders, reversing climate change, and even ensuring spiritual ascension, what do they tell us about our deepest collective anxieties today? What does our desire for such a perfectly flawless, conflict-free world reveal about human nature itself? It's a profound question to chew on. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep questioning the world around you.